Greetings ladies and gentlefish, and welcome back to another video full of subscriber replays. Hurrah! And in this edition, I'm going to take, well, advantage of some of the different replays I have been sent to showcase a particular thing, which will become really obvious really quickly. There are 3 premium British heavy tanks in the game. 3. Not all of them are available for regular purchase. In fact, of those 3, only 1 is available for regular purchase. One of the others was certainly on the EU servers, available in the gift shop for a very limited amount of time. It will probably come back, available on other servers as part of a mission reward, and the other is no longer available in the gift shop. It was taken out. So we are kicking proceedings off with Cartoon Villain here, and he is driving the Tier 5, the Excelsior. So, as we can already see, this is a Tier 5 game. He is top tier, hurrah, which does make the Excelsior rather happy. Cartoon Villain has 2 marks of excellence on the gun barrel, so this is clearly a machine that he does fairly well in, and has played a reasonable amount. And already we have friendly kills on the friendly team, and, you know, people turning blue, and all the standard fare you expect from, well, online gaming, frankly. Now, this is Mines, and Cartoon Villain has come over toward the village side of the map. When top tier, the Excelsior combines respectable mobility with pretty decent frontal armour, the only real downside being the rather dubious gun, and hence you'll notice Cartoon Villain carries a fairly healthy stock of APCR ammo, as I do indeed on my own Excelsior. But this is not going to be one of those games, as perhaps you've already worked out from what's happened so far, where a Cartoon Villain, or where someone just spams premium ammo all over the place. Cartoon Villain is playing this game very aggressively, balls to the wall, as really he should. This is, after all, a top tier game, and so far he has managed to rack up 3 kills. Now the team is 8-4 ahead. This is being a little bit of a face smashing game, and we're going to continue with that. Churchill to the left of him, Churchill to the right. Here he is, stuck in the middle of them. We'll see who he goes for here. Now against Churchills, the most reliable way to penetrate them frontally is through the turret. That's usually a weak spot, but for this pretty terrible gun, it's not really, unless you load APCR ammo. So what's wrong with this gun? Well, 110 alpha damage is not fantastic, but it's not completely terrible. There's kill number 4. But 91 penetration for a Tier 5 heavy tank is pretty terrible, even if this tank does get limited matchmaking. Goodbye, Mr. T67. It really does need the limited matchmaking, if we're going to be honest. If you load APCR with this tank, you get about 140 something penetration, 144, which brings it in line with the regular ammo on the top gun on the Churchill. So the Churchill is still a better tank. Side armor, however, Cartoon Villain should be able to penetrate that, although he manages to hit the toolbox there and bounce off. That's how good this gun is. Defeated by a toolbox, but there's kill number 6 either way. Working over this T-34, 108 health left. That should be, if Cartoon Villain can hit him, kill number 7, and that just leaves what is probably a rather nervous feeling Gorilla on the enemy team. Now the one thing I would say here is Cartoon Villain doesn't load any high explosive on his Excelsior. Personally, I carry a few rounds. 75mm HE is not bad at Tier 5. 175 damage, 38 penetration, providing you choose your targets carefully. So we're thinking things like the Flak Bus, or Death Toaster, it goes by a variety of different names. The PZSFL 4C, is it? Yes, 4C, there's one on Cartoon Villain's team here. Very thinly armoured, and with HE rounds you really can wreck his face. And there's a few other targets that HE rounds do good work against, so I find them useful. Don't carry too many, but a few here or there can be useful. Grill has been reduced to a one-shot, and Cartoon Villain polishes him off to finish that game in style. Let's look at those results. So despite being a rather quick game, that actually ended up being a rather nice result for Cartoon Villain. Ace Tanker, Bruiser, Duelist, Fire for Effect, High Caliber, Top Gun, and a Radley Walters medal for those 8 kills. A very nice result indeed. 1,817 damage done, 8 kills of course, 1,228 base experience, which is all rather nice, especially considering the Excelsior is only a Tier 5 machine. So 1228 XP, I imagine, would be well in excess of what is required to ace this machine. And 1817 damage is very nice on a tier 5 indeed. Bearing in mind that was only a tier 5 match, so there wasn't that much HP or damage to go around, but Cartoon Villain managed to hoover up a good amount of it. 24 shots fired, 22 hits, 21 pens. Now, I said the gun is bad, but at the ranges that Cartoon Villain was using it at, and at the targets he was using it against, the armor-piercing ammo was perfectly serviceable. Most of that damage, in fact all of that damage, was from pretty much point-blank range. Received 4 hits, of which 2 penetrated, 2 did not. Only 110 damage blocked by his armor, though. 5 enemy tanks spotted, 9 damaged, 8 destroyed. Who managed to avoid getting killed, but did take damage? Oh, that Su-85B, of course. 44 assistance damage, 1.21 kilometers travelled, and because Cartoon Villain only fired armor piercing there, he did not fire any premium ammunition, actually quite a respectable profit. 32,000 credits profit with a standard account. That would have been 50,000 credits with a premium account, and a shed ton of XP into the bargain. So there's a nice 4-minute match to kick this video off, where Cartoon Villain goes over and kicks the enemy team in the face. So this time we progress on from the tier 5 British Premium Heavy Tank to the tier 6 British Premium Heavy Tank. This is of course the infamous TOG 2 Star. I do have a review of this machine if anyone's interested, and TOG, of course, standing for the old gang. This is a machine that was designed, well, it was designed during the Second World War, but it had become obsolete 20 years before they even started designing it, frankly. Anyway, I digress. It is being driven for us today by Vespertin, and he is here on Sacred Valley. Now, the TOG is, in case you can't work it out, incredibly slow, which is why a lot of people don't like it. If, however, you are willing to give it a go, it does get a very good gun. It gets the ubiquitous 17-pounder, but down here at tier 6, on this tank, it's actually pretty good, especially when you combine that with the fact that the TOG 2 actually, like the Excelsior, gets limited matchmaking. I never worked out why the TOG gets limited matchmaking. I mean, I'm not saying it's a good tank, I'm certainly not, but usually those tanks with limited matchmaking have a bad gun, and the TOG's pretty much exactly the opposite. It has a good gun. Ah, well, never mind. So you get 171 penetration, I think it is, 150 average damage with this gun. If you want to fire APCR, that penetration jumps up to 239, and you get decent 76mm HE rounds, 190 alpha, 38 pen, and of course, the TOG 2 carries more ammunition than you will ever fire in a single battle ever. So you can mix and match that ammo as you choose, really. Now, this is a tier 6 game, so Vespertin is top tier. Looking at what he's going to have to face off against, looking at the top tiers on the enemy team, there are no top tier heavy tanks. There's a Cheeto, a Cromwell, a Skoda T25, sorry, and an AMX-13 F3. This being a patch 9.14 game is, of course, after the Czechoslovakian tanks were released. Well, this is from the most recent patch, so of course it was after the Czechoslovakian tanks have been released, and those of you who are perhaps more observant will notice that Vespertin has been driving for over 2 minutes now, and he has yet to fire the gun. He has yet to even have an opportunity to fire the gun, unless he just wants to pockmark the ground around him. The TOG really is incredibly painfully slow, and if you cast your eye at the minimap, you may be able to see the impending problem. Basically, the other flank is dead. All of them. Well, okay, apart from an M5 Stuart, who is soon to be dead. He is surrounded by a Sentinel, a Skoda T25, and a Cromwell. For those of you thinking, Sentinel, what the hell is that? Well, this is a new, fairly new, British premium medium tank at tier 4 that was released and was available, or is still, I think, available for purchase from the gift shop. Certainly on the EU servers. I can't comment about any of the others. So the scoreline is 6-6, and Vespertin has still got his accelerator to the floor, trying desperately to find someone to shoot at. Now, this is the sort of thing you really have to get used to in the TOG. Just driving a long way, looking for someone to shoot at. Now, if I was going to be critical of Vespertin here, I would say It is clear from the minimap that the other flank is gone, that the artillery is in the process of dying, and that basically the enemy team is all over on the 9 and 0 lines. And as Vespertin, I would have turned around to defend the friendly base a long time ago. Generally speaking, if in doubt, you are better off defending your base than you are pushing on towards the enemy base. Having said that, it looks like the enemy team has had a very similar... Sorry about that. It looks like the enemy team has had a very similar thought, and so it looks like they might actually be heading back to the end to defend their base themselves, and so it may actually work out in Vespertin's favour. Maybe, as it turned out, I would have been wrong. But generally speaking, you are better off going back to your own base. And pray do not pay too much attention to chat, because there is a very, very upset little snowflake who is having a bit of a skits fit. And there's the Skoda T25, as we see, approaching the friendly artillery. But Vespertin is here now. He has made it to the enemy base, and there are scumbags to kill. And there are 3 scumbags! Oh, frabjous day, Kalu Calais. Now, for some reason, Vespertin switches fire to the Griller. I think it was because the Griller was actually looking at him, and he wanted to, if he could, try and kill the guy before he put a shot into Vespertin. Unfortunately, he took a hit there. Now, Vespertin's driver has been knocked out, or at least that's what the replay tells me. But given how fast Vespertin is going, I'm not quite sure how reliable that is, if I'm honest. Either way, that's those 2 artillery pieces dealt with. Vespertin just needs to take out the Matilda, who is AFK, so he's not paying him too much attention. Far more concerned with the 3rd artillery piece over here. Oh well, no shot on him. There we go. We'll kill the Matilda if we must. Shot in the rear there from the enemy Cromwell. Looks like the Cromwell... Oh, he might be using the big gun. I say big. It's not massive. Vespertin fires, Cromwell comes out to take advantage of it. Cromwell loses 150 health. Vespertin has a lot more health to trade away than does Sir Crommy. Takes an artillery shell there as well, knocking over a little bit of this terrain to try and deny this Cromwell places to hide. There we go. Is the Cromwell going to be a plonker? Oh, shot through the... No, he's just going to come out. Well, that was a terrible idea. There goes the Cromwell. Now there's just this artillery who is chipping away at Vespertin's backside. Really very inconsiderate of him. There's just this artillery and the Skoda T25 remaining. Now, as I say, the replay is telling me that Vespertin's driver's down, but I think that is a replay bug because he's doing 11-12 kilometers an hour, and believe it or not, that sounds to me like a toggle with its driver intact. Now, you may be looking at that thinking, good lord, that bounce off the rear armour was very, very lucky, but actually not so much. Now, that is definitely ammo rack damage, and Vespertin should repair that as soon as he can. The rear armour of the Tog is actually surprisingly bouncy, because if we have a look at it, it's actually angled. The Tog, much like the Excelsior, has bum armour that you can angle. Now, Vespertin really should put the ammo rack in back here. He needs all the rate of fire he can get against this enemy Skoda T25. Now, Vespertin does still have artillery support here. Thing to be wary of against the Skoda, it gets a nasty little autoloader. 3-round autoloader, I believe, assuming the guy's using the top gun. There's another bounce, which is actually making me start to wonder if the guy is using the top gun. Maybe he's using the stock gun, but no, there's a hit. Vespertin doesn't want to give his side to this fellow, because, you know, big flat side of a Tog, you couldn't miss it if you tried, frankly. And it's never going to bounce anything. It's the front and the rear of the Tog that will bounce shots. Now, this Skoda is not playing this game very well at all. He's put himself in one-shot territory, and Vespertin, he's going to miss. This is getting a little tense. Come on. Alright, so we're in one shot OK Corral, and there we go. Skoda T25 gets taken down, and that is the game. So let's go and have a look at those results. So a very different game there to our previous offering. The Tog is slow and ponderous, and so you very rarely get those kind of 4-minute matches. But all the same, Ace Tanker, Hand of God, Duelist, Fire for Effect, Steel Wall, High Caliber, Top Gun, and a medal you never get in a Tog, a pass scooches. That means you've driven over to the enemy team and killed their artillery, which was always endlessly amusing. 1,754 damage done, 6 kills, 1,068 base experience. which puts him at the top of either team by whatever metric you choose to mention. Commiserations to the enemy Cromwell, who racked up over 1700 damage and 3 kills. Not quite enough, I'm afraid, mate. Although you did kind of muff up just a little bit right at the end. And also, the friendly T-150, 1400 damage from him is a rather fairly respectable result. 21 shots fired, 15 hits, 14 penetrations for that damage count. 16 hits received, of which 12 penetrated, which means 4 did not, which I find hilarious. For 355 damage blocked by his armor, really indicating that maybe that Skoda wasn't using the top gun after all. 3 enemy tanks spotted, 6 damage, 6 destroyed, and with a premium account that was basically a 46,000 credit profit, firing nothing but armor piercing ammo, would have been a 28,000 credit profit with a standard account, and of course a nice amount of XP into the bargain, as that was first win of the day for the daily double. So there we go, a bit of toggy action. One more game to show you. Third game here, and of course those of you who've been paying even the slightest bit of attention should be able to work out what tank it is we're going to see now. This is of course the third British premium heavy tank, the FV201A45. I do have a review of this machine on the channel if you are interested. Driven for us once again by Cartoon Villain, like the Excelsior game, and he is here on Ensk, which is a teeny little map, really is tiny. And he's top tier. All of these games have been top tier, which isn't perhaps a huge surprise. In the case of the Excelsior, it excels. Haha, see what I did there? When it's top tier, not so much when it's bottom tier. But of course it gets limited matchmaking, so for it, bottom tier means a tier 6 game. Ditto applies for the TOG, if you can say it really excels at anything. The A45 here, the same thing applies, however it does not get limited matchmaking, because screw you. No idea why not, apart from the fact that Wargaming don't like limited matchmaking anymore. It really, really needs it, if we're going to be honest. It needs something. Leopard away in the distance, and here you can see the wonderful capabilities of the gun. And it's actually interesting to see this tank played straight after the TOG, because it is to all intents and purposes the same gun, with a better rate of fire and worse accuracy. Ho-hum. Which is interesting, especially when you consider that, as I mentioned, the TOG gets limited matchmaking, and the A45, a tier higher, here at tier 7, does not. Anyway, I am going to stop whinging and complaining now, I promise. Considering what sort of tanks on the enemy team are a threat to Cartoon Villain, we come to the conclusion that that's all of them, because he's driving an FV201. Sorry, I will stop whinging, I promise. I really do promise. The FV201's actually a tank I enjoy playing, even if I think it's garbage. There we go, bounce on the side of a G1R tier 5 medium tank. Oh yeah, this gun is amazing. Regardless, Cartoon Villain's come over here to the town. He is of course a top tier heavy tank, although the armour on this machine is, well, it leaves something to be desired, although that was a bounce from somewhere, good lord. Frabjous day, Calais, he chortled in his joy. Black Prince over there to the right hand side, that of course is the regular tier 7 British heavy tank. Black Prince isn't really paying attention. Okay, he's paying attention now, and that shot bounced, of course. Cartoon Villain takes 1 round through the side armour for him. You could argue Cartoon Villain should have turned front on to the chap, but frankly the armour on this thing is pretty garbage, whichever way you're looking at it. So instead he's going to take on a T1 Heavy. He's bounced 2 rounds from this guy so far, which is actually quite lucky, even from the T1 Heavy's not fantastic gun. Tracks the T1 Heavy in place, 1 more shot should finish this guy off, and there we go, manages to kill the guy without taking any damage in return. Which for most tier 7 heavy tanks is nothing special, but seriously for this thing I would have expected a couple of those rounds to penetrate. As it is, Cartoon Villain gets away with it, and that's not the case. That Black Prince from earlier on is now distracted by someone else, and so CV is just gonna light him up. And the guy really, there we go, should get out of dodge, but as it is, he dies anyway. Now, although the engagement seems to be going alright, the scoreline is actually 7-9, but 3 kills recently for the friendly team, so just a moment ago it was 4-9, which is not exactly what you want. KV2 over here, we have to be very careful of him and his big fat scary derp gun. And he's slowly not turning his turret to look at Cartoon Villain here, which means Cartoon Villain is just going to take his time to pick this guy to shreds. And there we go, there's kill number 3. Hellcat is up in B2, so he can become the next target. Again, you'll notice Cartoon Villain doesn't load any HE. Now, I know this is only a 76mm gun, and it is at tier 7, but you carry a respectable amount of ammo on this tank, and so I think a couple of rounds of HE can be useful. And against things like the Hellcat, it can allow you to do significantly more damage. So here we go, shots into the side of the hull of the Hellcat would, unless your shell only exploded on the tracks, it would penetrate for full damage, which is of course with the HE rounds 190 instead of 150, and on top of that of course you'd do more module damage. Not that it really makes any difference in this case, but just in general, 1 or 2 rounds of HE there can be useful, especially on a gun that reloads so quickly. If you don't like your ammo choice, you can rapidly change it. T29 and an IS now. Now these are very credible threats. Nice shot. That was in third person as well. And there we go. Far more of the target to hit, but that one didn't do anything because reasons. Now the bloom stats on this gun are actually not bad. It's just the fully aimed accuracy of this tank is terrible. And it looks like that chap wasn't actually using the top gun. So that was probably a hit from the 90mm gun. And actually another shot bounced there, which is surprising. Doesn't really want to take a shot from the IS, but the IS never gets a chance, as actually the Tiger 1 intercedes and finishes the guy off. Yet another T1 heavy for CV to polish off, although someone else beats him to it. And that one does do damage to him, of course. And that just leaves, never mind, the Churchill 1 evaporated. That just leaves the SU-100Y and the OI Experimental, both of whom get very big guns that can be problematic. Now, at this stage, you would expect the friendly team to win, but that doesn't necessarily mean they will. One thing I would say here is that Cartoon Villain tends to take his first shot at a target, not fully aimed and in third person. In my experience, well, I wouldn't advise that for anyone watching. As, you know, you tend to find that first shot will miss. I would, in most situations, scope in for your first shot as well. This just leaves the SU-100Y. Now the SU-100Y can of course do a very large amount of damage in one shot, especially if he's loading premium ammo, and that's one of those tanks where the premium ammo has more damage rather than more penetration. It actually has less penetration, but Cartoon Villain has his bum, and this should just be a fairly easy kill steal for the T29. No, it wasn't a kill steal, but a kill for the T29. And that is the game. So once more, for the last time this video, let's just go and have a look at these results. So that game was actually enough for Cartoon Villain's first mark of excellence and an ace tanker, which I am slightly jealous about, as I have yet to get ace tanker in my own FV201. Bruiser, fighter, fire for effect, and the high caliber medal to boot. It was quite a nice game all round. 3,588 damage done, 5 kills, not quite 6, there were several times when he could have got a 6th, but the kill was just swept from under his feet by someone else. 1,363 base experience, which is quite a nice result. Friendly Tiger 1 also got a pretty nice result, over 1,000 base XP is a good game, however you look at it. And the T29 also did a respectable amount of damage. Commiserations to the enemy KV2, who managed to rack up almost 3,000 damage before he was taken down by Cartoon Villain, in fact. 39 shots fired, 30 hits, 26 pens for that 3,500 damage, most of which from relatively close range. 7 hits received, 3 penetrated, 4 did not, which surprised me, but if we look at the amount of damage blocked by armor, it becomes clear those guns were rather low caliber. 3 enemy vehicles spotted, 10 damaged, 5 destroyed, 182 assistance damage, 30 base defense points, and almost 50,000 credit profit, which is fairly nice. Although the FV, you tend to want to have a few premium rounds, especially when you're not top tier, and that means this tank is not actually the best moneymaker in the world. That was the daily double, of course, so that ended up being quite a nice amount of XP for Cartoon Villain as well. So there we go. That was a video showing the trio of of British premium heavy tanks. I was going to say tier something, but of course there were 3 different tiers. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, by all means feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel. Or if you are interested in sending your own replays to me, then upload them to whatreplays.com. Upload the replay file, that is. Send me the link as a personal message on YouTube and I shall take a look. By all means feel free to include why you think the game is interesting when you send it. Doesn't have to be, you know, a 1600 base XP ace tanker game or something. There could be a variety of reasons that you think the game is worth showing, and I try to prioritize either players or tanks that I've never showcased before. So whatever you decide to do, I hope you guys enjoy doing it, and I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao ciao.